Examining organizational tension management. In a high-pressure environment such as the C-suite or boardroom, tension is bound to exist. But the goal is not to eliminate tension, but to turn tension into productivity. This presentation focuses on surfacing performance tensions. Performance tension refers to the class of tension related to business performance. There are three specific types of performance tension that exist. They are profitability versus growth, short-term versus long-term priorities, and success of the whole organization versus the parts. In this video, we will examine the three types of performance tension in detail, along with the concepts of the management relationship spectrum and tension management itself. First, let's understand what tension is. Tension is a state in which people or groups disagree with and feel unrest towards one another. There are two main kinds of tension that exist in the organization. Natural tension, which refers to personal tension that arises when talented, driven people compete among one another. The focus of this presentation is on performance tension, which refers to business performance. Effective leaders understand how to transform conflict, dissent, and disagreement into progress. Tension isn't necessarily bad. Let's understand why tension is important and can be a powerful management tool. Our goal is to turn conflict, dissent, and disagreement into a tool for driving performance through tension management. Having the right fights by embracing the right tensions and making them work for our organization is an effective approach for organizations and teams to drive progress. Brian Pittman, a former CEO of Lloyd's TSB, stated, "You need real disagreement first to get true agreement later." Tension is a necessary evil that can cause dysfunction or drive performance depending on how it is harnessed. Tension exists on a continuum, which we can visualize on a management relationship spectrum. In the graphic, we can see the extremes of the management relationship spectrum. At the far left, we have friendly dysfunction. This type of behavior is characterized by a severe inclination to avoid conflict and tension. Thus, the desire to be in agreement is so strong that important issues never really get resolved. To the far right, we have unfriendly dysfunction. In this situation, personal agendas, excessive pride, turf battles over lesser issues, etc., impede progress that can improve the organization's performance and potential. The tension is palatable. The work environment is extremely hostile and toxic. Too little tension gets us nowhere, and too much tension creates too much friction, draining away our energy while getting us nowhere. The goal is to find the sweet spot on the spectrum. We want to be somewhere in the middle of the management relationship spectrum, at the tension sweet spot. The tension sweet spot is a point where the team is productively tense. There is enough like-mindedness and alignment among management around foundational concepts, that is, mission, vision, strategic goals, etc., to allow us to engage in the right fights in the right way. Fostering a productivity of tense dynamic is critical to having a high-performance organization. Now let's look at each of these good tensions in a bit more detail. First, let's dive into the first performance tension, profitability versus growth. This tension captures the opposing forces of the pull for more growth against the pull for more profitability. Points of tension include a focus on boosting growth, loss of control of costs, and eroding margins. Symptoms of being trapped by this tension include swinging between a growth push and a productivity push, giving priority to reducing costs in difficult times and to boosting growth in boom times, and a low or falling share or price relative to competitors. Key management focus is decisions around organizational strategy. Next, let's examine the tension that exists between short-term goals versus long-term objectives. Related to the previous performance tension, this tension captures the need to show profit today against the need to invest in the organization's future. Points of tension include focusing on building for the future, focus on current earnings, and cuts into investment. Symptoms of being trapped by this tension include swinging between a focus on strategy and a focus on execution, increasing reliance on profitability rather than growth to achieve earnings growth, or vice versa, and difficulty in hitting earnings targets without delaying investments. Key management focus is decisions around performance and investment. The last performance tension expresses the goals for the whole organization versus those of the individual business units. This tension captures the objective for optimizing the whole organization against the tendency of individual parts, such as business units, product lines, etc., to maximize their own performance. Points of tension include focus on individual parts, focus on synergies, and constraints of business units. Symptoms of being trapped by this tension include swinging between centralization and decentralization, debates about accountability versus authority versus ownership, and strong separate cultural identities across business units or functions. Key management focus is decisions around organizational structure, culture, and people. To get our organization to the sweet spot, we need to understand tension management, which follows a 4-step process. The first step is to embrace and surface performance tensions of the organization. Then, pick the right fights in Step 2. Step 1, embracing performance tension, implies we need to call out the conflicting goals. In Step 2, pick the right fights, focuses on identifying the right fights and fight them in the right way. It is critical that we engage these fights with respect and empathy so as to avoid engaging the right fight in the wrong way. For successful tension management, we need a foundation of alignment and re-energize the organization. The third step of our 4-step process is build a foundation of alignment. This entails establishing a common view of what the organization is trying to accomplish. Without this, the organization will be consumed with conflicting priorities and infighting. In Step 4, re-energize the organization. This can mean restructuring to remove organizational silos or reimagining the future of work, etc. Through the tension management process, here are important questions for leadership to raise. How much time is going towards the right tensions? How well are performance tensions being addressed by corporate strategy? How well do dissent, differing views, and competing ideas get surfaced, discussed, or productively debated? Instead of trying to eliminate tension, leadership must choose to cultivate them productively. We hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel.